It's now the fourth night since Operation Sindoor. That's a day when India carried out targeted strikes only on terrorist infrastructure deep inside Pakistan. The following nights after that have seen a lot of fireworks. A lot of fireworks. The whole country has been watching it sort of transfixed, as we've been doing since around 8:30 this evening when action started over Jammu, and now it's spreading to other places. So what exactly is happening? First of all, the warfare we have seen so far is basically air warfare. The air forces are fighting. The air powers of the two countries are fighting. There is a lot of shelling, you will say, in Punch and other areas. That is static. The real action is with the air forces. What are the air forces doing now? After the strikes by Indian Air Force, which were effective, which hit all the targets, we saw the pictures. Since then, the two air forces are measuring each other's strength and also figuring out each other's weaknesses. It's a bit like two boxers doing their initial sparring. That's what's going on right now. And the effort on both parts, but it started with Pakistan Air Force, is to carry out suppression of air defense, or what is called SEAD, or suppression of enemy air defense. India, the first day, as we explained to you yesterday, in cut the clutter, went out without doing it because that was necessary to maintain surprise. The Pakistanis have no such issues about surprise, that kind of surprise anymore. They will be surprised at a tactical level that they will look for, but they know that India will presume that they will come and they will launch some kind of a counter. So they are, one, trying to figure out India's frequencies, to jam them if possible, or to damage some of India's air defense infrastructure. Now, these days, when you say air warfare, and for 3 nights you haven't seen any aircraft flying. Air warfare now is not planes going like this, right? Air warfare for the planes is all beyond visual range. You will see very little. Air warfare, however, begins on the ground. So what happens on the ground? That is your ability, your infrastructure to track enemy aircraft, guide your own aircraft, help your missiles with targeting. All of that is critical to air power. So air power now has very clear dimensions which are completely interlinked. They are as interlinked as your upper arm with your forearm. It's as interlinked as that. The fight right now is over your air defenses. Pakistan has carried out these attacks. India has put in counters. Indian spokespersons also claimed today that after Pakistan's efforts to probe our air defenses last night, through many hours, India put in a counter and disabled one Pakistani air defense system. India had also claimed that yesterday early morning, they had used a bunch of Harop drones, Israeli drones, to attack Pakistani air defense infrastructure, because the previous night, the Pakistanis had tried to do the same thing, and that's when India claimed that a Chinese missile system was taken out in Lahore. That is the basic detail and preamble I have. I will soon be joined by Snehesh Alex Philip. Everybody is busy in our newsroom these days, so he's busy. He's finishing what he's working on, and he'll be joining in with me to explain to you the many dimensions of this air defense, the many levels. There is extremely close, then medium range, then long range, etc., etc. And all of these have their own acronyms and their own terminology. Both sides have a lot of this, and that is what we'll be hearing more and more about if this continues, because it doesn't look like right now that there's an off-ramp. In fact, preparing for this, because while we want peace to descend as quickly as possible, but who knows? This may carry on for some time, and who knows for how long, because usually in these matters, particularly when there is no statesmanly leader, at least on one side, then things can continue to spin out of control, or at least you can keep going up the escalation ladder. That's where we seem to be going right now. That's the reason we have also, I'm sorry to use that expression, but that's an expression in this period that becomes more relevant. Although these are just journalists, not soldiers, we are deploying, or we are assigning a bunch of our very fine reporters and camera people all across the border district. So I will read out the names for you and you will see the pictures. Praveen Jain, all of you know him. He's our photo editor, national photo editor. Sajid Ali Mir from our video section. He's in Srinagar right now. Praveen Jain is in Srinagar right now. Sharan Puvana, who's usually our Bangalore bureau chief, he is in Akhnur, which is seeing a lot of shelling and tension. Sagrika Kisu, our reporter, is in Punch Surankot area, which is under the heaviest shelling. So Sagrika Kisu and Suran Singh Bisht, the photographer, are there together. Good luck to them and very brave of them. Fantastic job, young people. Nutan Sharma is in Bhuj. Bhuj also saw attacks the previous night and I suspect will continue to see attacks. Bhuj is very close to the border with Pakistan. Nutan Sharma is in Bhuj. Manisha Mondal is in Rajkot. All of these people will not stay put where they are. They'll move in and around these places depending on where they are needed. So Manisha Mondal is in Rajkot. Mayank Kumar is in Amritsar. Bismi Taskin is in Bathinda. And Krishan Murari is located in Jodhpur but will keep on moving in and out of Jodhpur to wherever action takes him. So this is the team we've now got in the field or on the ground, and if things get worse, though I hope not, but if this gets more complicated, we will put more of our reporters on the ground. We will bring you accurate reports from the ground, not any of the fanciful thinking, rumor mongering, sensationalizing. That is not our style, nor is that the definition of journalism that we understand. And we know that all our minds are these days assailed by rumors, lies, fantasy, fabrications, made-up stories, sometimes also by people who don't mean very well by our country. That's why we bring you this series of stories. This entire coverage is going to be called The Print Ground Truth. The Print Ground Truth. So please keep an eye out for the hashtag The Print Ground Truth. And to make sense of all of this, and once again to filter out all that is inaccurate, all that is exaggerated, all that is deliberately confusion spreading sometimes, we will give you another daily show called Pure Facts. That will be presented by Ananya Bhardwaj, who heads our internal security coverage. So she'll be here, and since all of you know our defense editor Snehesh Alex Phillips so well, he will be overseeing our coverage, generally overseeing our coverage based in Delhi in our newsroom, and the overall charge will be with Nishit Upadhyay, our editor operation. Now, it's not cheap to carry out such an exercise, to send out so many people. Besides the expense of travel, etc., we also had to, because we want our people safe, at least as safe as we can make them, we've had to acquire for them bulletproof vests and helmets. That's the minimum we can do for them. It's cost a lot of money, something in the range of 15 lakh rupees. All of that stuff needs help from people like you. Just 15 lakhs have been spent to provide basic protection to these brave journalists. All the other expenses apart. So please do take a subscription, a paid subscription. It is 500 rupees a month, but you can top it up. You can make it as much as you wish. Remember that we need to raise something like 20 lakhs, this 15 lakhs worth of protective equipment, which is an additional expense. Another about 10 lakh rupees of travel expenses. That is not knowing how long this will last. So this is also a fundraising appeal. This is not just a normal subscription appeal. It's a fundraising appeal. You want good journalism, you put your wallet where your heart is. Then you will get good journalism. We might still give it to you, but our ability to sustain this also will be limited. So with that now, I call in Snehesh Alex Philip, the best you can get in the business, to answer questions from me and to make sense to all of us of what's going on. Snehesh, action is on, and you can say that this is probably or likely prelude to larger air warfare. So what exactly is going on now?
See, right now, this is for the third consecutive night that the Pakistanis have launched, multiple drones. As it was announced today at the press conference that was undertaken by the Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri and the two officers, Pakistan last night had launched about 300 to 400 drones. The difference between last night and tonight is the fact that last night what they had launched were, predominantly Turkish drones, but the non-armed ones. This time that they have launched is what, at least this is again, I'll put in a disclaimer.
Are ground-based reports.
Yeah, I'll put in a disclaimer. These are based on ground reports that are coming in from what the initial reports or what the sources are saying in the initial movement is the fact that these are likely to be armed drones that has been fired, right? Loitering munitions type. So it started off from Jammu, and now it has spread through to multiple locations. As we speak right now, there are information coming in from Amritsar. Also, earlier it was just limited to Pathankot, and then a couple of places in Rajasthan too. So again, so similarly, I think this would end up being a long night because the information is that it's much more.
Yeah, and how do you stop these?
See, that's interesting part. So on the first day when the Pakistanis tried to hit the multiple Air Force stations, military locations, at that time the Air Force, because it was the Air Force stations were under attack, both the air defense systems of both the Air Force and the Army were active. So, for example, everybody talks about the S-400. S-400 is that of the Indian Air Force. It is not operated by the Army. So the first day when it happened, there were multiple units of both the Army Air Defense as well as of the Air Force Air Defense which got into action.
Because it looks like on the first day, they also teased us with some fighter aircraft.
Yes.
And they were fired at.
And so those were fired at by the S-400 air defense system. That's why the long-range missiles were used. And when I say long-range missiles, the S-400 saw action for the first time. The S-400 under the Indian Air Force saw action for the first time.
But after that, the next night, etc., until now, that hasn't been used because Pakistanis are just sending in these low-value drones.
Yeah, so these low-value drones are being sent, which are being taken on by Army Air Defense units, interestingly, by both modern systems as well as by systems which are of the 1960s vintage.
Yeah, and those include the original Bofors of Indian Army.
Well, the original Bofors of the Indian Army, you're right, because it was manufactured by the Swedish firm Bofors.
Those are the L-70 guns. If you have any recollections or if you've seen any films or any pictures of the 65 war or 71 war, that was the main anti-aircraft weapon because those two wars took place in the pre-missile era. 71, there were some missiles, but very few. So that was in the pre-missile era. And these L-70 guns then had a very high rate of fire.
Yeah.
And they fired what is called as flak.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Those guns have been modified.
Yes, the L-70 naturally over the years have undergone modernization. For example, now it's modernized with radar, electro-optical sensors, and auto tracking system, which means that it is able to hone in on the target and continue firing at it, track it.
Yeah. So when you see this swarm of drones or loitering munitions, then the same gun once again can put out a lot of big volume of fire.
It has a really high rate of fire. I don't want to get into the specifications of it. We'll of course do a story once everything is over. It's already available on the open net, but it has a high rate of fire as well as it can cover a very good distance in air, right? And then you of course have the Army Air Defense also has the Russian or the Soviet Union era vintage, the Zu-23 guns.
Yes. Those are the ones you see that come up on the rooftops of tall buildings on 26th January, 15th of August. Those are also targeting drones and other objects like that.
Yeah. So those fire two kinds of runs. One is the AP. Those fire two types of rounds. One is the AP round, which is the armor-piercing round, and then is the HE, which is the high explosive round. So the images that you see on the screen when a drone is being fired by Pakistan and the red flashes, those are the traces of these very same guns.
Yeah. So explain for all of us the various levels of air defense, because air defense is a thing in news now and you will be watching a lot of it. Whatever happens next will follow this round.
Absolutely. So air defense has changed over the years, right? At this particular moment, as we speak right now, India has air defense starting from handheld to the S400s.
Handheld is not man pads. Just explain.
Yeah.
Handheld is what you have in your hand, a bit like the kind of thing you use to spray something.
Yeah, so this is the handheld are basically jamming and spoofing devices, which the Indian Navy was the first to procure it. It was procured through it's an Israeli company which makes it, and now there are several Indian companies manufacturing it. So the services have bought them. It looks like a gun, but it is used to take down drones. So now air defense also would mean drones. So that is a minimum that you start with. Then you have the man pads which are there, which is
Man pads, man portable anti-aircraft defense
Yeah.
devices.
Yeah, the air defense system. That is the man pads, and then you have the Vishorats, which is very short range missile, air defense missile system. And then from Vishorats, you go to the short range ones, right? For example,
SR-SAM.
yeah, the SR-SAM. So, for example, we have the indigenous Akash air defense system. It is a short range one, and it is able to take out, target, and take out multiple enemy aerial targets. For example, the Akash was also used by the Indian Armed Forces to take out the incoming drones and other projectiles over the last 3 days. Akash is about, give and take, minimum is about 25 kilometers. Then from SR-SAM, you move to the MR-SAM. Now,
That's medium range.
yeah, that's a medium range, right? So a medium range would be about around somewhere around 70 kilometers, whatever.
Yeah.
And then we have the MR-SAM, which is the medium range air defense systems. The
SAM is surface to air missiles. All of you know.
Yeah, and the MR SAMs are basically the Barak 8. The Navy earlier used to call it the LR SAM. It was installed on ships,
yes.
The long range. But what is long range for the Navy air defense is short range as far as the Air Force is concerned, right? So eventually it was decided to have a common nomenclature of calling the Barak 8 as MR SAMs. So MR SAMs has now been deployed and is now been inducted by all the 3 services, right? And then you move to the long range one. In the long range one is only the Air Force has it, which is the S-400. And as you all know, the S-400 can track targets which are about 600 kilometers away and can easily take out targets depending on what missile has been fired up to 400 kilometers. So that is something which is there. And then is the eventual many countries would have is the BMD, which is a ballistic missile defense shield. So that's a different kind of air defense that you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what Israelis and the Americans have been using in the Gulf lately, because Houthis are firing so many ballistic missiles.
Exactly.
Now, of the really short range man portable ones, these are very old but very effective, particularly against drones and as the last defense for missiles which get through your system. Those are Tungushkas, Iglas. Just tell us a little bit about those as well.
See, Igla, there are two variants of Igla depending on the distance that the missile can work with. So
these are Russian.
Yeah, these are Russians, and they come under the very short in the Vishorats system. So incidentally, Indian Army was trying to get modern Vishorats for quite some years. Now the Army has come out with an RFI through the indigenous route to get. So that is something which is in contention. So those are the short range ones.
And we have quite a network of these. There is also the Israeli Spider system.
Yes.
SPY, not SPI, not Makdi, SPYDER.
Yeah. So Spider again belongs to the Air Force, right? So depending on what missile is fired from it, you file a derby, different kinds of missiles that can be fired. Eventually, all of these systems of the Air Force is integrated into the IACCS, which is known as the Integrated Air Command and Control System. Now, under the whole initiative towards jointmanship, you have the Army's air defenses and the Air Force air defenses being integrated. Army has a separate program for the air defense, which is the Akash Tir air defense system. So now the Akash Tir is been married with the IACCS.
So the base of all of Pakistan's air defenses is Chinese.
Yes, and the primary air defense system that the Chinese are using is the HQ-9 Bravo, HQ-9B. So that is an air defense system that they have deployed at multiple locations. But as you would have seen, and ever since this conflict has started, the social media is abuzz with articles and opinions about how good the system is. Right? Because given the fact that Indian drones managed to reach Lahore, and this is something, and this particular conflict is something that even the Western world is also observing very closely, because Pakistan is using a lot of Chinese equipment.
But I presume the Pakistanis also similarly have multiple levels of air defenses.
The Pakistanis do have multiple levels of air defenses, but not to the extent that India really has.
Yeah.
Right? So most of their air defenses systems are located towards the LC side and towards the border areas. So even when the Balakot attacks took place in 2019, at that time also Indian Air Force had managed to evade the Pakistani air defense systems. So that is something which is there. But so vis-a-vis India and Pakistan, I think in terms of air defense, India is doing much better. It has a larger multi-layered air defense systems compared to that of Pakistan.
Yeah, but Pakistan also would have filled those gaps learning from Balakot.
Absolutely, they have filled
That was
those
an
gaps.
embarrassment for them.
They have filled those gaps with having more of these Chinese equipment. But the problem with Pakistan is that no other country is willing to give air defenses to Pakistan. And right now, Pakistan is heavily dependent on China and then for Turkey for their defense equipment.
Yeah. So, Snehesh, I read that this border between India and Pakistan, say Radcliffe Line, probably has the most concentrated air defenses on both sides. Because even if you look at America, as Trump says, we have two beautiful oceans, right? And there's Canada on the other side, no problem, ally. This place two very active and strong air forces and history of conflict and a history of a situation where a conflict can break out anytime.
Yeah.
And any conflict, air forces are the first to get off the ground. So where does this action stand now, and where do you see it going?
See, India, I think, has made it very clear, and through the press conference by the Foreign Secretary yesterday and even today, that the ball is in Pakistan's court as far as the escalation ladder is concerned, right? India has made it clear that it is responding in kind or in the same caliber as what the Pakistani military is doing. But interestingly, as we speak, the information has come in. The ISPR DG held a press conference, which was directed at the foreign media. So a lot of foreign media journalists were invited. And the ISPR DG, and I'll quote, and he says, the ISPR DG, "We will not de-escalate with the damages India did on our side. They should take a hit. So far, we have been protecting ourselves, but they will get an answer in our own timing."
Yeah, at least that one is one big shift on the Pakistani side. And that has happened this time because pictures were available. That was the difference.
So you're talking about them accepting damages.
Yes,
right?
accepting damages. They haven't. In fact, the Pakistani spokesperson also accepted the damage to the air defense system in Lahore yesterday morning. So that's a new thing for Pakistan, which means they're really hurting.
They are really hurting, and that is the reason why I feel that all of these drones that have been sent in are exploratory in nature. What I mean by exploratory is the fact that they know that the air defense system of India, the air defense network of India is very strong. They also know that because of this heightened tensions, we've moved around air defense systems, right? Locations have changed. So they are now, and this is what the Foreign Secretary also said. So this is just not my assumption.
At his press conference
today, that the Pakistanis are trying to understand or gather intelligence of where our air defense systems are and what kind of air defenses systems are located where.
Yeah.
So, which means the only reason why they would, they would carry out such an exercise is only when they are planning to hit on a larger scale. And when I say hit, I think they're likely to use their Air Force to do so. So, whatever the ISPI DG has said today falls in line with what India has been thinking, that these attacks or these drone operations are more exploratory in nature, and Pakistan could be planning a larger scale of attack.
So, Snehesh, we conclude by saying, stay strong, India. You've got what it takes to deal with this menace now.
Absolutely. I think the number of instructions have been given out by the administration, by the military. Follow the protocols that would be there whenever you hear a siren or a blackout that is there. But be confident and don't fear.
Yeah, and the other thing is never post any information. I know everybody wants to make reels now. I saw in Jammu people making reels and doing commentary for Instagram. Remember, this is the era of computerized telemetry. Somebody on the other side is also watching this in real time and can calculate many things about the
Absolutely.
direction, pace, etc. So please don't do it. I know in this era of Instagram, everybody wants to make reels and get engagement, but not like this, not at this cost and not at this risk. And I will tell you a story, something that the Israelis told us. In the first Gulf War of 1991, Iraq fired Scud missiles at Israel, Saddam Hussein's Iraq. And that's when the Americans had transferred Patriots to Israel, and those Patriots were stopping the Scuds, but the odd ones still got through. So there was one Scud missile that fell someplace, and some foreign journalist said, "Oh, missile fell there." Obviously, they were trying to aim at the Mossad headquarters, but the missile fell half a mile away or a mile away. At the press conference that day, the Israeli Armed Forces spokesperson, this was in the basement of the Hilton in Tel Aviv, he said, one of you wrote this, please don't do this because you are helping the other side, right? You are not saying the other side is stupid because the other side is not stupid. By saying this, that they missed an important target by this much distance, you are helping the other side. And then he said, in the typical Israeli fashion, that all of your journalists, we respect you and we like you, we want you safe. We want you to write headlines. We don't want you to be mentioned in headlines. So please remember that caution. Don't be trigger happy on your phones and your devices. This is not the time to become social media stars. At this point, stay back, do everything that you're being told to do, all the instructions from civil defense, other organizations, and wish your forces the best.